Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So I've already not thought about what day it is. Today is 3 weeks. It is day 21 of lockdown and it is the 10th of April 2020.
How you finding it, guys? How
Well,
you coping?
they can't answer, but I can say I have had a day and it
Yeah.
has not been a fun one.
Well, the thing is, that's not really lockdown related, particularly. What
Well,
has
lockdown
happened?
definitely made it worse, but
we
yeah.
were beginning to get our heads around the new normal and thinking we were doing pretty well, and then a sort of reality crashed through our skulls with I don't know how to finish that sentence, but yeah. Stuff happened.
So stuff
Real
happened.
life occurred at us.
Well, we've mentioned Poppet. We've talked about Poppet. She is home now, which is brilliant. And obviously I was very much looking forward to having her home because then you've got eyes on her and you can see how she's doing. However, it's been a tough day. I was sort of imagining her coming home with a cast on her leg and being a bit grumpy about it, but sort of handling it. Actually, as it's happened, she's not been very well. She's been like really spaced out, which I assume is to do with the drugs. But the weird thing was that she was just lying there just with her eyes open, not sleeping, and she was like responsive. But hello, sorry, there's a cat. But like just not sleeping and just lying there and just couldn't stand up, so just kept falling over if she tried to shift her weight or shift her position. And yowling in pain every time she did, which is just heartbreaking to watch.
So actually today's been sort of more stressful than yesterday, because yesterday, although obviously we were worried about Poppet as you'd expect, while she was at the vet's,
we'd had the call that the op had gone well, and it was we're bringing her home tomorrow.
We knew that she was kind of in the best possible hands, professionals looking after her. She knew she was getting good care. And today, bringing her home, obviously we can't avoid being aware of the discomfort she's in because she's right there with us.
But also, it's bank holiday today. It's Good Friday. So the vet was closing at 12, so we were due to pick her up at 11. Which, me being all fibro girl here, getting up several mornings in a row very early, but actually like 7 o'clock in the morning the one, 8 o'clock in the morning the other, on very little sleep. It doesn't do my fibro favours. It makes me quite ill. And today I thought, well, once Poppet's here, I'll be able to sort of have a sleep while she's here and sort of be in the room with her so that she knows that all is well. But I couldn't sleep because I was just watching her, basically. Thankfully, though, we've turned a corner. Because also the thing that was really worrying me was not being able to sort of talk to anyone about it or get any advice. I've sort of been given dire warnings that she's absolutely not to get her dressing dirty or wet, but she doesn't seem to be able to stand to use a litter tray. So what happens if she gets it wet that way? Like, how can I do anything about it?
I would say that of the two of us, Ellie's been a very doting cat mum, and I've tried to lend what support I can. Although I've largely been in charge of staying out of the way and keeping the dog company, so that the dog doesn't whine too much about being kept downstairs.
Yeah, the dog came up when we brought her in, and then almost immediate. Well, she sat on the bed for a bit as she usually does, but then somebody in the street made noise, which is an outrage. So Lucy had a big barking fit, but then Poppet got really distressed and sort of tried to run away, but she's in a crate, so she couldn't. So then that sort of meant that we had to keep Lucy out of the room, which Lucy does not approve of. No. And she's basically got used to 3 weeks of always having company. So just the minute we just put the baby gate aside and shut her in the living room was just... she wasn't happy. So Chris has been
company. I've made Ellie
dog walking. You've been making me food.
I made Ellie lunch, but obviously, as I say, Ellie's had it rougher than I have today. But even I, up until about half an hour ago, I'd say I was feeling pretty dejected and a little bit sorry for myself. And I imagine Ellie could multiply that.
Yeah, well, I've been struggling bad on the anxiety front. Quite bleak day today, actually, sort of feeling quite helpless and quite anxious and just getting that sort of slightly, the world is moving and I don't know what I'm doing and kind of, I want to get off, please, feeling. But thankfully, that's turned a corner within the last sort of half hour, 45 minutes. I was praising getting animal insurance yesterday. I'm now going to praise it much higher for a specific reason. And this is down to my particular animal insurance, which is through Animal Friends. Fortunately, like 3 days ago, they sent an email to let us know that anybody who had a lifetime policy for any of their pets, which I do on mine, which basically means they're covered for any condition that goes on indefinitely. It's not like there's no limitations on it if they had diabetes and had to have medication for the rest of their life, etc. Again, because I wouldn't be able to afford it. So I got the lifetime policy. Anyone who's got any of those policies can get free use of an app called Joy, which is spelled Joii. Now, that's not actually made by Animal Friends, it's sort of separate, but Animal Friends have done a deal with them that basically Joy is a pet care app where it's got very good, easy to use advice for any health queries you've got about your pets. But also, the main thing that's brilliant about it, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can have a video chat with a vet or a vet nurse. And we did that tonight because we were a bit worried about her and didn't really know quite what to do and essentially just needed a bit of reassurance more than anything, I think. We called through, spoke to an absolutely wonderful vet nurse. She asked some brilliant questions and also told us what to look for, told us sort of what colour her gums should be, had a little look, advised us on the meds that she was on and what they're doing to her and what sort of half-life they have and what time to try and feed her and not whether or not to worry if she's had a wee and all of this stuff. And basically she was incredibly thorough, very understanding and incredibly helpful. She also said if at any point we need to call back, she's on shift for the next 5 hours, but then all of the notes she's made go on to the next member of staff, and it's all sort of, and I got a message on my app to say that my medical notes have been sent to me, so they're on file, so that actually also goes to your vets if you want it to or if it's needed. It was brilliant, and I think you can separately just get that app, so even if you don't have insurance or you don't want insurance or whatever, but you sort of think, well, actually I really would like to be able to have a medical a veterinary professional on tap to have a chat with. There's no limitations on how long the consultation can be, and there's no limitations on how often you can use them. I dare say at some point they might just be like, you again. And I think that would definitely be worthwhile. Perhaps if you've got pets with sort of little health niggles that you just sort of think, well, I don't think this is a trip to the vet, but I could do with a bit of guidance. They video chat, they tell you where to point the camera, they ask you questions, and you sort of are their hands and eyes. But it was brilliant, and it really put my mind at rest. Also, she then finally, because it'd been about 48 hours since she'd had a meal, possibly.
She had about a spoonful
and she'd
of food
had
this morning,
literally like a
treats.
teaspoon, barely anything. But then this evening she's eaten basically a pouch of wet food, which is less than she'd normally eat in a day, but she ate it with some gusto.
Yeah.
So that was incredibly encouraging. And then I managed to get the rest of her dose of the good drugs in her. It's some sort of opioid. Her eyes are now massive. They are the size of dinner plates, and she is just quietly having a good little trip. So I feel much better. And also the vet nurse just basically said she'll probably just sleep that off for the next sort of 6 to 8 hours, but then try and get some food in her before you give her the next dose, because then she'll space out again. But yeah, so that's really encouraging, and I feel lots better. But I do apologise. I am aware I am looking exhausted. I am exhausted. I fell asleep on the floor next to Poppet's crate with my hand in the crate trying to stroke her to sleep. So I'm going to feel that tomorrow. But I only slept for about 20 minutes. So in the last probably 3 days, I'm on less than 8 hours sleep total, I think, and it shows. So yeah, probably slurring my words, probably talking nonsense. Sorry.
No, it's all been very coherent.
Hopefully.
I've been here listening the whole time. It's been fine.
Hopefully I will get some semblance of sleep tonight, and I will be feeling better tomorrow. I nearly didn't blog, and actually if we hadn't had the encouraging turn of events, I think I would have just lay next to Puppet and cried a little bit. But actually, thankfully, I'm feeling much more encouraged. So let's get this done, and then I get to go to bed.
They would have got just me vlogging and me as I was really dejected.
Nobody wants to see that,
No,
but I've this has become a thing now. I don't want to miss a day.
No, one of the things that I love about the pets, particularly during the current world situation, is the fact that they are completely oblivious to what's going on. They just go about their business and they don't care about the news and everything that's happening, and they're not worried, and they're just eating their food. And
they are a tonic, aren't they?
They really are, but obviously the flip side of that is that when something happens, like has happened to Poppet, and now she's in, a kind of cage, a reasonable size cage, a big enough cage.
Let's not call it a cage. It's a crate.
It's a crate, but it's not.
She's been advised to go on crate recuperation so that she can't.
It's been medically advised, so she can't try and run about and things. But
she's on lockdown.
Yes, and what I was trying to say is the flip side of them being oblivious and not knowing about what's going on is that when something bad happens to them, you can't explain to them why it is. We're keeping them in this crate, reassure them that it's going to be back to normal soon.
Yeah, that's the thing that's so hard when they're in pain, just to sort of be like, I can't, because you have to kind of hurt them to help them. Like trying to get her into the crate when she had the break before it had been set. Like, oh God, the noise she was making. It's just, it's awful. And you can't explain to them, this is for your own good. And yeah, it's heartbreaking. But yeah, she currently is in the crate and is sort of zonked out. I suspect when she's feeling a little better, that crate is going to get very old very quickly.
Yeah, it's not like an orange crate, by the way.
It's basically, it's a large dog crate for like crate training with dogs, which apparently is good for separation anxiety, is to give them a safe space. So it's big enough. Lucy would fit in it, and Lucy's a Labrador.
I've never heard of these crates. That's why I call it.
I know, but cage just like I've got her in a cage. Sounds horrible.
Yeah, but it's more like a kind of big, kind of like a hamster cage, but big. Like you don't feel cruel putting a hamster in a cage because it's designed for a hamster.
Yeah.
And it's nice, and they're happy, and they have fun there. That's what it's like. It's like a nice. It's a reasonable size. And it's the best place.
The main thing is
so
that if she was out and about in the house, she might try to jump up onto the bed or try to jump or even just going up and down stairs. And the way they've set it, there's a few screws in her bones in various places and an external splint. And we're going to have to take her back once a week for the next at least 8 weeks for weekly x-rays and possible adjustments. But basically, it's a very fragile and delicate break. So he's I don't think he could have stressed it any harder. Nothing can happen to this. Don't let her do anything like hard to this cast because it's not a cast. It's not solid. And it won't take much for one of those screws to just boop in the wrong place. And then actually it can then do more harm than good, and then you can be looking at things like either further surgeries or amputation and things like that. So it's very serious that we keep her still and don't let her jump about, but I imagine once she's sort of a bit more compos mentis, she is going to be livid. And I'm not looking forward to that, but I am looking forward to her being more compos mentis. So I think we can probably leave that there, but yes, think about getting insurance if you've got pets, and if you don't have pets, you don't need it, but if you don't want insurance, it may be worth looking into this Joy app, which I assume you can just get. I assume it's probably a subscription, I don't know, but it's called JOII, and the insurance I'm with, Animal Friends, and they've been really good. They also direct paid my vet, so I didn't have to fork out the several £1,000s on a credit card and then pay that back when they paid me back. They just paid them, so that's also good. So yes, do that. I recommend it. It makes a horrible time slightly less horrible. So yeah. I
was reminded while we were talking about that yesterday, while Poppet was at the vet and there was nothing we could really do but wait until we were given a time to come and pick her up, and so we were obviously a bit preoccupied, but there wasn't really anything we could do, and but something we did to distract ourselves and kill a bit of time was a quiz. A lot of people have been doing virtual online quizzes in various different formats.
Yeah, we've done a couple.
We've done a few different ones, a few different formats, but this one was on Twitter. It's by my friend Jake Baker.
It was very good. It was a good quiz. Nice spectrum.
It sort of started off deceptively easy, and I sort of got lulled into a false sense of confidence, and then this difficult questions kind of snuck up on us. But I mean,
it was challenging.
It would depend, I guess, on your specialist subjects, which rounds you find trickier than others. But it's still on his Twitter feed. It's got all the questions, and there's even a musical round with a little video that you can play, and then you scroll down a bit further and it gives the answers, but they're not, right in front of you, so you can see the questions first. And yeah, it's worth a go. So I thought we might as well give it a shout out. So that's at JakeB_comedy.
There you go.
JakeB_comedy.
And what's his name? Jake Baker.
So thanks to Jake for writing that quiz. That kept us busy. That was fun. It was great. And
yeah, it was really good. We also had a sort of virtual game night with your parents, which was lovely. Well, parents and family, actually. Chris has 2 sisters who both have husbands, and Chris has 2 parents. And we Zoomed with all of them and played categories, which was really lovely. More than anything, it was really lovely to just have this feeling of hanging out with the family. I think there were a few moments where all of us were having giggling fits over well, I won't say because it won't make any sense, because it didn't make any sense at the time. What's a tooth mug? Don't know. Right, but yeah, it was lovely. It was really, really nice. And we meant to talk about that yesterday, but we just gabbed for too long that we ran out of time.
But it was really fun. And also, if you are looking for games to play with friends or family, kind of virtually across House Party or Zoom or any of these apps, Categories actually works quite well. If you or anyone you know has a copy of Categories, because all you need is to kind of take a photo of the list. If you don't know what Categories is, this will mean very little to you. But if you know, take a photo of the list, send it around to everyone that wants to be involved and play. And
yeah, only one of you needs a copy, and everybody else doesn't need to be able to see it live.
People just need a pen and paper, and they need to know the list, kind of what lists you'll be using of things ahead of time. And then
and it's a bit of silly
only
fun.
One person needs a dice and a timer. And yeah, it's a good family game. It's easy for people to join in with. You don't need a board. Like you say, only one.
To be fair, you could sort of do it without scatter. There is a party game that's basically the same thing called Stop the Bus. But it's slightly different rules, that you'll have various different categories, and then the first person to get all of them written then says stop the bus and everybody stops, but it's basically the same game. But yeah, that works really well and was a good giggle and much needed yesterday, because obviously I was a bit stressed yesterday and more so today, but hopefully it'll be better tomorrow. I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, so that was something. Before we go any further, I am going to go into some grim stuff in a bit. But before we go into some grim stuff, Chris said to me that he's got some sports news, and he wanted to keep it secret until we were talking on this, so I don't know what this is. But I do want to know what your mystery sports news is.
Well, that makes it sound like it's going to be more exciting. I just sometimes think it's nice to have something a bit fresh that you can react to, because we've got all day together in the house every day. It's nice to be, but it's not going to be anything.
He saves up the good anecdotes for when you're watching.
Now I'm talking it down, and I've got to still say it. So, but
we can leave it. We can. You can tell me the mystery sports news later.
Right. In the late 90s / early 2000s, I'm not sure when, Vince McMahon, who is the head of the WWE,
I knew it was going to be wrestling.
The owner of that company. No, it's not wrestling actually. Even though he owns a wrestling company, he also attempted to set up a rival football league to rival the NFL.
Right, okay. Quite ambitious.
Yeah, I know, right? It was called the XFL, and I think the idea was it would run kind of in the off-season of the NFL, and kind of that's how that would work. That is literally all of my knowledge of American football. There is an off-season. And that did not pan out at the time. When the whole thing went under for various reasons, but he spent a lot of time since trying to raise money to kind of give it another go. I believe he sold off stock in WWE to kind of raise some of the funds. It's been a lot of focus of his attention over the last year or two, getting that back off the ground, up and running again. It literally started either late last year or even maybe the start of this year. I'm not sure exactly when that was, but very recently that obviously got suspended because of everything that's going on. And I found out today that has now been shut down. All the staff have been fired. It looks as though that is not
just written off entirely.
Not coming back. And I mean,
he must be seething.
I mean, Vince McMahon is a polarizing figure, and people. Not everyone is a fan, and that is absolutely fair enough, and there are good reasons not to be.
Is there a certain amount of it that you think's persona? Because he does to sort of play into the part of it because there's a lot of real world wrestling plot crossover happens, but I do wonder if he plays up
taking money from the Saudi Sports Authority to run sporting events in companies in a country where they kill journalists and outlaw homosexuality. That's not persona, is it? But point being that he's done a lot of good things for the wrestling industry. He's done some bad things. He's done some good things in business and some bad things. Anyway, I'm not here to defend Vince McMahon. My only point is I can't help but feel a bit sorry for him, given that this is
a passion project that he's really been working on for a long time.
And it fell apart the first time, and this time it looked like it was being better received and was doing reasonably well. They had TV in place, and now it looks like that's all fallen apart again for him because of everything that's gone on. Again, I'm sure there are many people who've done much worse out of the current situation that I'm not personally aware of. Some people I am aware of who've done worse out of this. Some people, I mean, he's going to be fine, but I just felt it's obviously a passion project for him, and it's just like can't catch a break with this one XFL project.
Maybe it's just not meant to be.
Yeah, there will never be a rival to the NFL.
Maybe there's a voodoo doll that the NFL have of Vince McMahon that they've been working on.
Well, that would imply that they
started COVID.
Yeah.
Well, I
heard it here first, guys.
I won't say it.
NFL.
I won't say it.
I knew sport was a bad idea.
But you can fill in the blanks on that one.
I think I literally said it. So.
Yeah, I won't say it. The lawyers can come and talk to you.
Sport. There's no one lawyer that represents sport.
I didn't say the lawyer. I said the lawyers.
Yeah. Well, what they're gonna gang up.
The NFL's lawyers, I would imagine.
Well, I wasn't blaming the NFL per se. I was saying it was all sport.
Oh, okay. Let's just blame sport for things anyway. Sport. So, that probably does not. It's not. Don't expect any glossy segues today. I haven't had enough sleep for that, so I'm just going to talk about stuff I've got on my list to talk about. And this one is a grim one. I think this might be the grimmest grim bit yet. So brace yourselves. Today, we've had in the UK the highest death toll to date due to COVID. This is again only hospitalised deaths, so it doesn't actually represent people dying in the community or in other care facilities. But it is the highest to date, which is, until you reach the peak, sort of how you expect things to go. It'll get higher before it gets lower. Today's death toll was 980 people. So let's call that 1,000, shall we? That's basically 1,000 people have died in a day. That's beyond belief. The thing that makes it extra terrifying, that is higher than both Spain and Italy's highest point at any point through their outbreaks. They are now past their peaks. We haven't hit ours yet. We don't think. All data suggests we've not hit the peak yet. It would have been a very rapid ascent to peak based on quite loose lockdown measures compared to other countries. So it would be, I don't think we're that close to the peak. So that is terrifying.
I believe I'm right in saying the original kind of government projections were they were kind of expecting official figures to be around 20,000 deaths.
I don't think that's what they were expecting. I think they carefully worded it as, with these measures in place, we would consider 20,000 deaths to be a good result. So they were sort of saying that would be best case scenario, but they didn't want to call it best case scenario.
Obviously, now we're up to nearly 1,000 people a day.
Yeah,
it's looking like total best case scenario might have sailed.
Yeah, that's gone. Basically, yeah, I think we're not at the 10,000 total yet. We're at 9,000 and some change death toll in total. But when we've had 2 days in a row where it's been 900 and something, that shows you the nature of exponential growth and how terrifyingly quick it goes from manageable numbers which obviously we're talking about people's deaths. It's never manageable. One is not manageable because that's a whole family and friends' lives turned around. But when you're talking in single figures and then it's in double figures, it doesn't take long before the hundreds become thousands, and that's where we're at, and we're braced for it to get worse before it gets better. As such, and as you would hope, yesterday was when they were due to talk. They're talking about every 3 weeks reviewing the lockdown measures. I wondered if that was going to be a press conference where they talked about possibly making them a bit harsher. That's what I was sort of anticipating happening. They didn't make them any harsher. They did just basically say we're not close to reducing these measures. We can't even consider doing that until we're after the peak, and not immediately after the peak, and we're not there yet. And then lots of very dire warnings about just because we've had some good data come through, which I don't really think any of the data has been that good. I think that's spin, if anything. They've said don't relax, don't feel like you've done enough now and that you can relax. This weekend, as I mentioned, it's Easter bank holiday weekend and the weather is glorious. So this will bring out the idiots. I've seen several people talking about the fact that they've seen neighbours with groups of people that don't live there in the garden having barbecues and that sort of thing. Not only is that obviously risking everybody that's attending, but also you'll have all been to the shops that you perhaps didn't need to go to get extra stuff for the barbecue. Basically, you shouldn't be in anyone else's house unless it's absolutely an emergency. Even for dropping off vital supplies to vulnerable people, the recommendation is still leave them at the doorstep, let the other people bring them in, unless obviously they're not mobile, at which case you have to go in. And then all of the appropriate hygiene measures should be being taken. Having a jolly with your mates because it's sunny and it's bank holiday is ridiculously short-sighted and irresponsible.
We get it's a pain, right? Like
also, I want to see my family at some point, so everybody needs to just stay the fuck home.
Because yesterday,
stay in. How hard is it?
Well, yesterday I went to the shop and I got some bits and I came back. And today, as we've said, beautiful sunny day, lovely weather, and I wouldn't have minded. I went to walk the dog and it was sunny, and I wouldn't have minded popping to the shop and getting a couple of ciders, maybe sitting and having a couple of ciders while I had my dinner and maybe cheer myself up a bit from what has been, as we mentioned, a bit of a grumpy day. But I didn't have to go. I didn't need those ciders. We've got food in. And so I made the choice not to go because that's the responsible thing to do under the circumstances. And I would have loved to have a couple of ciders in the nice weather, cheer myself up a bit.
Yeah.
But we have to kind of think responsibly, and that's just the six. And it's not. I'm not claiming to be any great martyr.
No,
fine.
We're not even trying to suggest that we've got it particularly bad. We don't.
No,
but it's just annoying when people are flouting it.
Everyone needs to be just making these sensible choices right now, and it's not hard. It's all right, really.
Yeah, it's inconvenient and it might be a bit boring. I tell you one thing that's really upsetting for myself, particularly, is tomorrow is my grand's 97th birthday, and I can't see her. I'm not going to see her. I would love to. She lives locally. I could walk to her house. I'm not going to because I shouldn't, and that's the right thing to do. I will talk to her, of course. Thankfully, she's now got, she's very high-tech for a 97-year-old lady, but at the start of all this kicking off, my brother and mother arranged to get her a mobile broadband portal thing, and so she's got a thing that she can video chat with us on. I don't know how well she uses that yet. We'll find out. But that's going to have to do. And she's 97. I don't know how many more birthdays of hers I'm going to get to see. And this one, I don't get to see her. And I would love to go there. I would love to give my gran a hug and a kiss and give her a card in person. I can't. And everybody is making those sorts of sacrifices. It's not a lot to ask when you consider what the NHS are dealing with right now. There are literally people who work for the NHS dying. You don't need to have a barbecue. You just don't. You can sit in your garden Sit in your garden, enjoy the sunshine, go for it. But you don't need to invite people around. You don't need to go to other people's houses. Yeah. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick.
And if you're going to the shops anyway to get essentials, we're not saying don't get some nice.
Yeah, if you're going to anyway,
get some tins,
make
get
the best
whatever.
of it.
But don't make special trips and don't invite your mates around. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, we've had this rant before, but it's just getting more and more. Like it was important anyway, and actually it's probably just as important early on before the numbers started to explode, but. This is a bank holiday weekend, and we've got an incubation period of 2 weeks. I won't be surprised if 2 weeks from now there's a big spike in new cases because of people being stupid over this weekend. And, like, you don't have to do that, guys, so just please don't.
We are rapidly running out of time.
And it's not been a cheerful one today, sorry guys.
Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll bring you a more light-hearted vlog, and I will be talking, I think, probably about cooking.
Oh yes, yes.
But I'll leave you on this. I'll be doing some cooking in the house. I'd love it if people on this wanted to comment with pictures of any food they've been doing, particularly if they've been doing anything a bit unusual, challenging themselves from what's in the cupboards, pushing themselves to try something a bit different.
Yeah.
I'd love to see photos of that.
Yeah.
I'm always up for a bit of food porn, so...
Chris is a big old foodie, and it's sort of interesting what we do when we don't have necessarily like perfect recipes to follow. So being a bit inventive, and actually some of the stuff you've been making has been bloody gorgeous. So I'm being well fed. So yes, I think we should probably leave it there. So yeah, I do apologise that it was a bit of a grim one, but it was important to be said. I will try not to be like this tomorrow, and we will see you then. Look after yourselves, don't be dicks. And hopefully we'll be much happier tomorrow. Bye.